Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Rights groups warn of deteriorating conditions in Israeli prisons as Palestinian hunger strike continues. Ban Kimoon arrives in Tehran despite Western attempts to isolate Iran. And Pakistan demands an immediate end to U.S. drone strikes. Mosaic, world news from the Middle East, begins now.
Human rights and civil society organizations warned of deteriorating conditions inside Israeli prisons, as tension is running high among prisoners in Israel's Rimon prison due to punitive measures carried out by the prison administration in cooperation with Israeli special forces.
The Palestinian Prisoner Society confirmed that the Israeli court issued an administrative arrest warrant for detainee Samar al-Bark for an additional 3 months. Al-Bark continues his hunger strike for the 100th consecutive day.
Palestinian warnings of an explosive situation inside Israeli prisons were issued this time due to the tension in the Israeli Rimon prison. This tension was created after 100 prisoners were transferred to another prison as collective punishment, and others were held in solitary confinement. In addition, special forces are being kept inside sections of the prison. The tension is heightened by fears for the life of prisoner Samar al-Bark, who's now on his 100th day of hunger strike. In a first in decades, a statement was issued by prisoner Zaharan Zeidat from the Negev prison, demanding to file a lawsuit at the Israeli High Court of Justice against intelligence officers who tortured him when he was arrested in 2004.
He was subjected to all forms of psychological and physical torture, and to a serious rape attempt by 3 soldiers who entered his solitary cell. They were trying to blackmail him into confessing. They also threatened to bring in his family and rape them, including his wife. This is not easy for a prisoner to talk about, but this is what happened.
Zaharan Zeidat confirms the lawsuit was filed to protect male and female prisoners, to protect them from the various types of abuses they endure, the latest of which is re-arresting individuals released in the Egyptian-mediated prisoner swap deal between the Hamas movement and Israel months ago.
The Egyptians must positively intervene to release the prisoners, and particularly those who were just released through the Shalit deal, and the prisoners who are on hunger strike, especially since the prisons and the Palestinian people are very tense right now.
The Israeli occupation forces do not even allow Palestinians to express solidarity with their prisoners. At the Ofer military prison, soldiers used rubber bullets, stun grenades, and tear gas to suppress the demonstrators and the media following protests in solidarity with the prisoners. The case of the prisoners, the case that is absent from the international arena and present on Palestinian minds, is a case that carries the dark fingerprints of the occupation's policies, an occupation that will seemingly continue to consider itself above any law.
UN Secretary-General Ban Kimoon arrived in the Iranian capital Tehran to take part in the 16th summit of the Non-Aligned Movement, or NAM. Upon his arrival, Ban Ki-moon met with Iranian Parliament Speaker Ali Larijani. Al-Alam channel received information that Ki-moon will meet the supreme leader of the Iranian Revolution, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Ki-moon will also discuss the Syrian crisis and Tehran's nuclear program with Iranian officials. The U.S. and the Israeli entity opposed the visit and mounted pressure to block it. In a statement issued to the press, Ki-moon stressed the importance of Iran's role, both at the regional and international levels.
senior leadership of...
I would like to congratulate the Iranian government for organizing this summit. It's an important opportunity for Iran to play a very crucial role as a moderate and constructive leader in the international community and to address all the challenges. Tehran has an important and sensitive role to play in the region, and particularly in regard to the situation in Syria. I will discuss the Syrian issue with the supreme leader of the Iranian Revolution, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the Iranian president, and other leaders. I look forward to holding valuable and constructive talks with Iranian officials.
The
non-aligned movement is hosting its 16th summit in Tehran amid anticipated changes to its framework. This, as the Islamic Republic of Iran received the 3-year rotating presidency of the movement.
The non-aligned movement, NAM, was born in the midst of a bipolar world system shared between the U.S. and the former Soviet Union. The nucleus of NAM was formed at the Bandung Conference that brought together Indonesia, Egypt, and India. Then, other countries unaffiliated to the Eastern or Western camp were added with the aim of establishing a third polar camp on the international arena to bring harmony between third world countries. However, the movement's role started to dwindle in the 1980s due to its lack of strong mechanisms for an effective participation on the international stage. In the 1990s and after the Soviet Union disintegrated, the movement's declining role plummeted due to the growing U.S. hegemony over international resolutions. It was the beginning of a new colonization period led by American imperialism, which quickly seized on the void left by the collapse of the communist giant and the end of the Cold War. Amid rapid international developments following the expansion of U.S. hegemony over the world and in light of the absence of the competing red power, NAM's role continued to dwindle. However, an attempt to revive its role occurred at the Cuba summit in 2006, when member countries attempted to redefine its strategy in a bid to expand its role on the international scene. After this humble attempt by Havana, it was Egypt's turn to preside over the movement in 2009. Egypt launched another attempt to promote the movement's objectives, evoking memories of the establishment of NAM at the Bandung Conference. However, former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak failed to take the movement toward its goal for independence and to revive its role on the international arena. All he did was gather the largest possible number of NAM's leaders in Sharm el-Sheikh without adopting effective and transparent mechanisms to help reactivate the movement's role on the world's decision-making stage. Now, Tehran's turn has finally come. Tehran, the capital of the revolution and the pioneer of Islamic awakening in the region, will launch a new beginning based on the influential and independent Iranian resolution aimed at countering the world's arrogant powers. Observers expect the Tehran summit to lead to a wide-scale restructuring operation aimed at charting a new roadmap for the movement and establishing effective mechanisms at the various political, economic, social, and cultural levels. The objective is to counter U.S. dominance over UN resolutions and its plans aimed at imposing embargoes and sanctions on NAM's member states, as well as to counter conspiracies targeting certain countries with the aim of luring them into the White House's trap.
Pakistan's Foreign Minister Hina Rabbani Khar is just one of the many world leaders attending the 16th NAM summit in the Iranian capital, Tehran. In an interview with Press TV's correspondent, she lashed out at the United States for its assassination drone strikes in Pakistan.
You see, Pakistan's position on that is clear today, and it has been clear in the past. Our position is that this is something which is counterproductive, it is unlawful, it is illegal, and therefore they must cease. And this is what the Parliament of Pakistan has clearly said. We are in close discussion with the US to find ways and means of, using different ways and means of being able to achieve the same objectives as far as the US is concerned. So it is important that we engage with them to ensure that the use of drone strikes in Pakistan territory should cease immediately. As I said, this is something that the Parliament of Pakistan has put through as a resolution. This is a position that Pakistan has held for consistently. So we would hope that we would find more acceptability of this.
Iraq's Kurdistan Regional Government is seeking to reopen its representation office in Baghdad. It's currently holding negotiations with the central administration over the issue. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki shut down the office earlier this month. D.L. McEwen is in Erbil with more on that.
Leaders in the Kurdistan region are hopeful that they can reopen the region's representation office in Baghdad. Negotiations are now underway between the regional and Iraqi central governments to reach an agreement. Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki shut down the office earlier in August. Critics describe the move as political punishment against the Kurdistan region.
Unfortunately, Nouri al-Maliki's decision to close this office was without any reason. We hope Maliki will change his mind to close the office because this decision is wrong. It's against the benefits of the citizens in the Kurdistan region and the Iraqi people. Because most of the work of this office is related to the work of the people and the citizens.
Iraq's central government said it closed down the office because there was a lack of legal reason for having it. The move followed a number of disputes between Iraq and the Kurdistan region. The Turkish foreign minister's visit to the disputed city of Kirkuk earlier this month caused a stir. Iraq's prime minister said Turkey treated the Kurdistan region as if it were an independent state.
This office does not add anything to the political situation. The political decisions are implemented in the Kurdistan region. The office does not play the role of a ministry or has played a part in improving relations. It has been unsuccessful from the time it was created. That's why I say it's a waste of time to talk about having or not having this office.
Office members say they are continuing to work in Baghdad despite the closure of their office. The representation office opened in 2006 under Iraq's current prime minister. Maliki visited the Kurdistan region and agreed with Kurdish leaders to open the office to help coordinate relations between Kurdistan and Iraq. Critics say the decision to close the office comes at an unsuitable time. The Kurdistan region's political parties recently decided to create a negotiations council to help resolve the ongoing disputes with Iraq's government. Current relations between Baghdad and Erbil seem to be a case of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. D.L. McEwen, Press TV, Erbil.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad says more time is needed to end the foreign-backed insurgency in his country. Assad also says a buffer zone, which the West has been talking about imposing on Syria, is unrealistic. He says the idea is being championed by hostile countries and the enemies of Syria. Assad says the situation in his country is better now and progressing. The Syrian army is fighting armed gangs in several cities, including Damascus and Aleppo. Assad responded to rumors about his whereabouts, saying he was speaking from the presidential palace in the capital. His comments come a day after a car bomb blast at a funeral in Damascus killed close to 30 people.
بكم إلى هذه الساعة الإخبارية ونبدأ بالأوضاع في سوريا حيث أفادت لجان
In Syria, local coordination committees reported that 42 people were killed in clashes across Syria. 20 of them were killed in Damascus, most notably in Kafar Batna, Al-Buwaida, and other areas in the countryside of Damascus, in addition to the Al-Khalidiyya neighborhood of Homs. Moscow called for conducting an unbiased investigation into the acts of violence in the town of Daraya near Damascus that it described as barbaric. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said violent clashes are ongoing between regime forces and Free Syrian Army fighters near the Taftanaz military airport in Idlib province as explosions were heard. The observatory indicated that the death toll from the Jif Jarmala bombing in Damascus rose to 27.
ارتفع إلى 27 شخصاً.
Military operations did not prevent the Syrians from protesting and expressing their opinion about the regime and to demand freedom and change. As for the outcome of the ongoing military operations for the past year and a half, it is visible in the destruction of Syrian cities and towns. As such, these scenes show a town that was devastated and no longer has any habitable houses. One of the residents even had to resort to burying his mother by himself after the town was deserted, with the exception of a few residents who lashed out at the international community.
The French president spoke yesterday, but what did he say? He said nothing. And Turkey says nonsense. Our refugees are at the border and they won't let them in.
We have 1 million refugees.
This did not prevent military operations and clashes from continuing in several areas in Syria. The Free Syrian Army announced that it waged an attack on Taftanaz military airport in the countryside of Idlib, saying it destroyed 5 helicopters in the attack. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that clashes are occurring between regime forces and opposition fighters in the suburbs of the neighborhoods of Al-Qaboun and Jobar in Damascus. The observatory also said the town of Zamalka is being subjected to violent shelling by regime forces that used helicopters to shell the town of Sakba and its surroundings in the countryside of Damascus. Heavy security deployment was reported in Masakan al-Barza, according to the Syrian Observatory, that confirmed that the city of Zabadani was also shelled. In the neighborhood of Al-Tadamun, it was reported that demonstrations were held to condemn the regime's massacres, according to activists. The Syrian Revolution's General Commission said that the cities and towns of Al-Ghouta al-Sharqiyya were also shelled with warplanes. The official Syrian media outlet Sana indicated that a group of those it described as mercenary terrorists detained citizens in Zamalka, including men and women. The coordination committees reported that the neighborhoods of Al-Khaladiyya and Jurat al-Shaya, in addition to the neighborhood of Homs, Old City, are being heavily shelled by regime forces.
What is happening in Homs, in particular, is an operation to free the checkpoints, so that the Free Syrian Army is able to move freely. Then, there may be an attack on significant sites.
Also in Idlib, the observatory clarified that regime forces stormed the city of Ariha and carried out raids and an arrest campaign. The city of Sarakib was also subjected to shelling by regime forces. In the city of Aleppo, the observatory reported violent clashes in the neighborhood of Al-Amriya, saying that many neighborhoods are being shelled by regime forces. The observatory also announced that 2 Republican Guard soldiers were captured.
They are from the Republican Guard, specialized in cracking down on demonstrations.
Meanwhile, clashes continued in Deir ez-Zor as Misraba was shaken by dozens of explosions, the result of shells launched from the barracks between Misraba, Harasta, and Duma. Assam Abdullah, BBC.
Back here at home, the declining economic situation and a rise in layoffs brought the Knesset plenum into special session today, amid reports that the government is considering tinkering with the planned and unpopular price hikes. We get more on this report from IBA's Aryeh O'Sullivan.
Only about 25 Knesset members, mostly from the opposition, bothered to show up at the special plenum debate over the increasing unemployment and worsening economic situation. The rare summer session was called by the opposition Kadima party, which lashed out at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's austerity measures. Opposition leader Shaul Mufaz also criticized Netanyahu, saying he was full of unkept promises. He ridiculed the Prime Minister, saying he thought life was one big picnic, who was pushing the line that Israel's situation had never been better, a real Bibi Wonderland. Value-added tax is set to go up to 17% next week, and petrol prices are rising again. Increasing food prices and unemployment are combining to boost growing consternation against the government's measures to boost government income. Netanyahu knows that these are unpopular moves, especially with an election year approaching, and has reportedly postponed discussions on the 2013 budget until after the holidays in order to win support for his austerity measures. Knesset member Einat Wilf serves in the Finance Committee and says the solution to the declining economy is to increase competition.
There's collusion between monopolies and trade unions to stifle competition, for example, in the ports. Israel, for all intents and purposes, is an island. When there's no competition in ports, everything that comes into Israel by way of import is more expensive. So we need to have a much freer market so that the cost of living will come down. This would be tantamount to having 1/3 less taxes to all Israelis.
Responding for the government, Deputy Finance Minister Yitzhak Cohen said the economy was simply reflecting the effects of the global downturn. He said in general, Israel's employment rates are at historical lows. According to figures from the Employment Service, the number of people out of work rose in July by 1.2%, with more than 202,000 Israelis now registered as looking for jobs. July saw 24,500 new job seekers, of whom more than 16,000 had been laid off, the highest number in 3 years. Aryeh O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Anti-Semitic attacks against French Jews have increased by 40% in France since March this year, when the al-Qaeda-inspired terrorists went on a killing spree that ended with the murder of 3 Jewish children and a rabbi in the south of France. ABA's Ali Wagalanter has more.
France, the largest Jewish community in Europe, is still reeling from the shocking execution-style murder of a 7-year-old girl, a rabbi, and his 2 small children in the entrance of a Jewish school in Toulouse in March. Since that terrorist attack, there has been an unexpected upsurge in violent attacks targeting Jewish youngsters across the country. Rabbi Abraham Cooper, dean of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, met recently with French Interior Minister Manuel Valls to discuss the rising anti-Semitic and hate crimes being reported to his organization by families in Toulouse, Marseille, and Lyon.
He confirmed that following that murder, there was an increase of 40% in anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish hate crimes in France. A shocking number, especially shocking because in this round of what's just taken place, the French authorities on both sides of the political aisle did exactly the right things immediately after Toulouse. There was no hemming and hawing and saying, well, we don't know.
Cooper said he pressed Valls for extra measures to secure the safety of French jury and to discuss strategies to thwart a growing trend of lone wolf terrorists on the internet. Cooper said he discussed with French authorities how to better intercept anti-Jewish propaganda on the web and how to prevent the emergence of more self-radicalized terrorists like Mohamed Merah, the Toulouse gunman who carried out the attacks.
The investigation into the death of the late Palestinian leader, Yasser Arafat, was officially opened in France. A court in Nanterre announced the investigation was launched following the deposition of a civil suit by the leader's widow, Suha Arafat, who suspects he died from polonium poisoning. The move was based on a report by a Swiss lab that said high levels of the radioactive element polonium was found on Arafat's clothes. This is the same substance that caused the death of Russian spy Alexander Litvinenko in London in 2006. Libyan Interior Minister Fawzi Abdelali said, "The Libyan authorities will not risk entering a losing battle with armed extremists." He was commenting on the destruction of a number of sacred Sufi shrines by hardline Islamists a few days ago. He did not hold any group responsible, but Abdelali said that these groups own a large cache of weapons and assured that disarmament in Libya is complicated and a major issue that requires a national plan.
على المستوى الوطني.
Israel, through its foreign minister Avigdor Lieberman, invited Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi to visit Israel soon. The Israeli minister Lieberman expressed hope that Morsi will confirm his words of reassurance with action. The Egyptian president said he would adopt a balanced foreign policy, confirming that the peace treaty with Israel is safe.
In the framework of the social debate on the new constitution, a number of rights advocates and constitutional law experts discussed what they viewed as problems in some articles of the draft constitution, including those related to judicial independence and a system of governance. This discussion took place at a conference titled Egypt's New Democratic Constitution, Issues and Problems, which was held by the Egyptian Organization for Human Rights.
It is responsible for not only organizing the life of all 85 million Egyptians, but also that of millions from the future generations. It is responsible for children, women, and youths, and doctors, workers, media workers, and everyone. It is the Constitution, so it is not only lines written on paper, but it is the new Egypt's way of life. Some of the Second Constituent Assembly's work to draft the Constitution was discussed by rights advocates during their conference that tackled the issues and problems of the new Constitution.
Article 2 is problematic, so we need to reach a middle ground. We agree that the text that was derived from the former Constitution should remain the same, that Islamic law is the main source of legislation. We do not want to add or change anything to this part. We do not want to change the principles of the provisions.
The second problem is the Constitutional Court and the attempt to weaken it, or the attempt to change its general functioning. The Constitutional Court is something we really value.
In addition to defining Egypt's identity in Article 2 and confirming the independence of the judiciary in another article, they demanded that the system of governance be intertwined and not to allow the president or the parliament to have excessive power. They also called for having all their human rights, similar to Tunisia and South Africa. As for party representatives, they expressed their rejection to the formation of the current Constituent Committee.
From the beginning, there were disputes over this Constituent Committee. It represents an illegitimate formation because it contains the same flaws in the formation that was previously cancelled by the Administrative Court.
Between the role of the Constituent Committee and the views of the rights organizations and the political parties, drafting the Constitution remains a precise matter that must be weighed very carefully to guarantee stability and the rights of all spectrums of the society. Mohammed Gamal, Nile TV. The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Wincoat Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows, and more at linktv.org/mosaic. Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories, world news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.